Do we have a... Oh, right there. There it is. Done.
Where's my camera? I've got, you like that I've got a green screen of a green screen. That was my thing.
A green screen of a green screen. I love it.
It's a great image. It looks just like... I don't know. Can you do a backdrop on Discord? I don't know if I've ever set that up.
You can. I'm using this one.
Okay.
I just did it literally the other night. So if you go to your settings and then scroll down on what is it, video and voice?
Voice and video. Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
Yep, voice and video. Scroll all the way down. There you go.
Yeah,
Video background. Yeah. So there we go.
I tried the same thing.
Yeah, as opposed to the usual blur that I keep. I just learned about this. So I'm going to take these headphones off, and I've got my green screen behind me.
What it did.
These are better headphones. All right. It's great to see everybody. Paul.
Oh, we chose the same one.
Oh, I like yours. Yours is very cyberpunk, very grown-up cyberpunk. Mine is
Yeah,
more
we've got the same one. Yeah, that's
backyard.
okay. It's sort of hard. You know, obviously, Victoria's sort of like in a different place in the city because you can see a different angle of the buildings in the background. Been here for years. Find this requirement.
Yeah. That's great. Yes.
doing now? Just hanging?
I think so. I was sending that link out to my voice talents, see if anybody wanted to join. So they can't hear all the wonderful, amazing things that you said about us,
That's exactly right.
Hmm.
And Bob really is that incredible, but I won't say anything more about him whatsoever. Wow. All right. Thank you, Wonder Jay and Jim Beverly, for letting me know about that. All right. So, this is Andrew Greenberg, Executive Director of the GGDA. I'll do an entirely different intro now, since I choked that one. Yeah, OBS, thanks for grabbing the wrong mic after you'd worked earlier. All right, this is a special GGDA presentation. Boy, am I glad my camera's not on. Be pure red background right now. Anyway, this is a special GGDA presentation. As you all know, we are doing a game narrative competition right now. So we're going to do a special presentation both on game narrative design and on the game narrative competition. We have three of the best people involved for this, for the presentation, and for the competition judging and organizing itself. The great Bob Carter, my favorite Balrog and Odin, Paul Jenkins, who is also a god of games and war, and Dr. Victoria Lagrange from Kennesaw State University, who's overseeing all of this. So I'm going to get everybody to introduce themselves, and we'll start by talking a little about game narrative design. If you have questions, please do ask them in chat, both on Twitch and on YouTube. So, Dr. Lagrange, would you talk a little bit about what is good game narrative and good game narrative design?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, I'm an assistant professor of game narrative at Kennesaw State University in the English department. And so I do teach a course on interactive narrative in games. And my research is more on empathy and immersion in games. So I do, study the players more. And what I've noticed is in terms of choices, the choices need to be morally ambiguous in order to be super interesting. If you make a story-driven game with, very unambiguous choices, people tend to choose them at like 90% versus 10%. What you want is have them make a choice that is complicated to make. That refers to their morals, that is very difficult for them to make, and that has a great outcome. And also the outcome shouldn't be predictable. Otherwise they get bored. So yeah, those are my 2 cents on game narrative design. How about you, Paul?
Paul Jenkins. 20 years working for Marvel, for DC. I've written a number of platinum-selling games, including work on God of War, The Darkness, Prototype, etc. I was a second employee of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I started with video games all the way back, which is really cool. And most of the work that I did, especially early on, was almost to innovate in game storytelling, because as weird as it would sound, really, when this started, it was a bunch of programming nerds, with all due respect to you guys. And they weren't so concerned with story. And I think a lot of the feedback that we got from a lot of publishers was they weren't really sure if there was a place for story or if story could be done because of technical issues. And so I feel that most of the work that I did, along with some amazing colleagues, which I'll tell you about in a bit, was really about innovation in storytelling and how to actually make this medium become a storytelling medium. Bob, let me pass you over to my mate, Bob Carter.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, my name is Bob Carter, voice actor, voice coach, broadcaster, and producer as well from the Neighborhood Studio, where we help aspiring creatives become working creatives. And I've been doing some voice directing for video games recently. And I can tell you that good narrative game design really matters. Dr. Lagrange, you brought up morally ambiguous choices when it comes to making engaging game design, and that of course triggered all kinds of flashbacks for me of Jade Empire or Fable, where they were clear, but it was more of a personality type in terms of not necessarily immediate ramifications for the consequences of the game, but it definitely had long-lasting impacts. And of course, really good game design. You're talking about factions, right? If it's going to be an MMORPG like EverQuest, or of course World of Warcraft, things like that, where you're building factions with certain groups over others. So immediately those ideas came to mind for me. But then also, I remember being a kid. What was the game? Andrew, what was the game? Was it Zork? It was entirely story driven. It was Zork, right?
Absolutely. Zork is wonderful.
Yes, right. So I was trying to think of like what is like a great example where the entire thing is all story and it's all choices, because I've been going through like
Hitchhiker's Guide. Those all of the Icon folks are the ones who end up doing Dracula Unleashed with me.
Really?
Yep.
Man,
yep,
you guys
great
are the
team.
coolest people I know. You are the coolest people I know. But I love story-driven games. I absolutely am fascinated by them. I mean, even when I run campaigns, story is everything. Story absolutely matters. So I am all for stories, and I think it makes fighting games better. Is when you have a very good storyline, a cohesive storyline, as opposed to just two people punching each other and just beating each other down. Don't get me wrong, I love arena games, but I love I love fighting games that have a compelling narrative within them. So I'm definitely excited about this opportunity to talk about game development and narration, and also to be a part of this competition. So Dr. Lagrange, can you tell us a little bit more about that part?
Yeah, about the competition. So
Yes.
we decided to put together this competition, and the deadline is September 1st. So it's something important to note because it's coming up soon. And what you got to do if you want to participate in the competition is just write a one-page dialogue. We're gonna, exactly, just one page. So the prompt is available online on the GGDA website. If you Google just GGDA Game Narrative, you will end up on the page with the prompt. But it's very simple. It's just a dialogue with, I think, two player lines and another character. So this one-page dialogue, and we're gonna judge, what you sent to us, and then the finalists will be able to have their dialogue recorded by Bob Carter's students, and it will be presented at the Siege. So you will be able to, present your work, network, etc. So very exciting opportunity if you're interested in game narrative design.
Now, will the narrative also have characters that will actually voice those, or avatars or skins, or will there be some kind of a background or anything like that? Any kind of framing or anything going along with that?
So that would be great. Yes, I envision probably working with experts, because I don't know, you can participate in this competition even if you have no background in, actual game design.
Right.
So yes, partnering with industry experts to try and build something, that would, illustrate this dialogue would be great.
All right.
Excellent. And yeah, one of the things that, Bob, obviously you're bringing to this are the voice actors, because I think it's great to write scripts all day long, but if you hand it off to someone and it turns out to be an awful recording session and they can't really do well with it, you're in bad shape. I was going to share a couple scripts very quickly just to show the difference between when you're working with a voice actor you don't know versus one you know well.
Yes.
So the first one I am going to share is from Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Sorry, everyone out there suddenly seeing my full Discord. I had to obviously lose the full screen there. So this is kind of what you do, or what we did at the time. You've got a lot of programming information. You got brief dialogue between folks. This is with, for those Star Trek fans, we were writing for the classic actor who did Harry Mudd. So he gets to say things. Thank you for your assistance. You have earned the eternal gratitude of Harry Mudd. I'll never forget how you heroically, single-handedly. And of course, then the PC says, we're overwhelmed. But anyway. And you see two different versions of the dialogue based on different prompts happening, etc. And a lot of different information in this, much more traditional script. Then we did Mall Tycoon with an voice actor who we knew very well. Here is exactly what we gave him. So Bernie Clark, who did this, successful TV actor. But more people have heard him as the voice of Mall Tycoon than anything else he's done. So having him say, "You do not have enough money," is a wonderful part. But you have to know your voice actor, and we're going to try and teach you how to start dealing with voice actors. So when you're working on your script, you're going to first submit the script. And then you'll have a chance to get, if it's chosen, you'll have a chance to work with a voice actor to get it recorded. Bob, do you want to start the conversation on what it's like working with a voice actor? What do those voice actors need?
Sure. We need, first and foremost, we need a clear description of the concept of your character. We need to know what kind of personality they might have. We need to know if they speak with an old English accent or a California surfer accent, or if they sound like they're from the future, or if they sound like a Keebler elf. You know, what are the vocal tones that you're specifically looking for when it comes to this particular character that's in your mind? And then once you've given us an idea of what the character should, or how they should portray their personality, then we want to have the different lines. And of course, the cleaner it can be, the better. A lot of times when we get auditions, if it's one or two lines, if you can just specify that these are not in the same scene, you know, that these are just different, they're from different scenes, but this gives you an overall viewpoint of what the character should sound like. That can help. Also, a little bit of insight into what that scene might mean, you know, because a lot of times we're only getting 4 or 5 lines, and if we have no idea of the background of what's happening in this scene, then we'll just create our own narrative, you know, I mean, because we have to make something from nothing. So the more description that you can give us, the better. So if it's, you know, this is a climactic scene between father and son as they face off, and the son is trying to redeem the father. Meanwhile, the father is trying to win the son over to his corrupted side, you know, whatever it might be. But if there's some kind of a description there, or if it's, you know, this is in the finale of the scene, and one of the actors is trying to reclaim the relic for a museum. Meanwhile, the other wants the power for himself. Great. You know, that gives us an idea of whatever that scene might be. Does it make sense? Cool.
Absolutely. So what about you, Paul? You're the one who puts the words into the voice actors' mouths and make sure that they don't spit them out. So what do you keep in mind? And you've worked with some pretty interesting voice actors over the years.
So a voice director, and it's probably, of all the things that I do across all the media that I work in, voice actors are my favorite people. Sorry, Bob.
Thank you.
Voice directing is probably my favorite job of all. And the one thing, you know, I wrote an intro to a book by Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt. Yuri was the voice of Sasuke in Naruto. And I read the foreword to it. And one of the things that I kind of pointed out was, you know, if you close your eyes and just listen to it, it's all around us, right? Like, sound is everything. And I think you can find out how sound doesn't work when you watch a movie and it hasn't had the sound design done to it. You know, it's destroyed, and you can immediately improve something with sound. Voice actors don't get the benefit of the facial nuance, or, you know, a camera can pick up a nuance from 50 yards away. But voice actors don't get that advantage, and so they have to carry things with the voice. And that is what makes, you know, voice acting and voice directing so compelling. It's interesting, and Bob knows this pretty well, I'm sure Dr. Lagrange does as well, that, you know, when you're watching voice actors work, it's excruciating and fantastic because people are contorting and getting into it. But, you know, to me, you know, some of my favorite parts of my entire career have been working with voice actors, finding that thing, you know. I look back to a game that I did a number of years ago called The Darkness, which I think is probably one of the most emulated story games that there is. I think people have played that game than any game that's ever been written. And the voice acting was fantastic. Mike Patton, who used to be the lead singer, I know Mr. Bungle, but he was the voice of the Darkness creature. And those sessions were fantastic, you know. You can sort of come in and you work with an actor, and it's sometimes they're bringing it. Other actors I've worked with that are pretty famous people who have sort of just showed up to do the gig and disappeared, and we've canned their entire thing because it just didn't fit, you know. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, what you have to look at when you're scripting it is you just like anything that you make, you need to look at like what the emotion is in this thing, right? What's the point? If you can't explain the point, don't continue. So let's take a look at what games do, right? Games are a fantastic illustration of the difference between narrative and story. Games are full-on story because it's not just narrative. Narrative is the sort of linear thing that keeps you in one direction, that gets you to understand what's happening, right? But story is the moving or engineering of people's emotions. And games do that in so many different ways. The first thing that a game does, it says, it doesn't, if you get a trailer for a game, it doesn't say Brad Pitt is this character. It says you are this character. And that's fascinating because now we're giving one of the tools to the person that's actually controlling the action and saying, I've got to move your emotions. So imagine you're playing the Incredible Hulk. If you're a timid game player, you're going to be timid Hulk. And if you're an aggressive game player, you're going to be aggressive Hulk. And your story may vary. And we're trying to give you the tools to tell your story. We're trying to give the actors, the actors are trying to help you with that. And, the content is also giving you some of the tools. But if I bring you to a T-junction and I want you to turn left for story and you decide to turn right and go play minigames for 2 hours, that's up to you. And we still have to kind of build the narrative and we still have to keep the story going. So, the voice acting and the scripting side of it is a component, but it's just a component of one of the tools that you get. And it's not everything. You need to consider the art, all of the pieces, the sound design, the music, all of those things are actually the story of the game. That's a lot.
Yeah. But I was thinking, Paul, what you just said, I think one advice I always give my students is if you want to become a game narrative designer, your goal is to be able to disappear. Like, people shouldn't know that you're there. The story should exist by itself. Players should have the illusion of agency. And it's like one of the most important advice, I think, you could give someone who wants to work in this industry.
Yeah, great insights. So, Dr. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
I'm going to add one insight to that. People have different ideas about whether a scripted sequence or a full motion video is worth it in a game, right? Now, I'm completely against full motion video. I don't see the point. I'll give you one place where I'll concede, which is at the end of a big level or something like that. Maybe if the video that plays is a real good reward, it's a fantastic story, like at the end of Halo, maybe at the end of Assassin's Creed, you can get to those pieces of full motion video and you go, yeah, I kind of like watching this movie. But you can always opt out. I do not want to watch this. I want to keep playing. Should be the default option. But what's fascinating about it is back in the day, we were sort of led to believe that you had to do full motion video to explain the story. And that's never been true. In fact, we had two scenarios. One is like the aliens are landing. And so you play a movie of the aliens landing and shooting off rockets and people getting killed. Or you can just orient the player towards the place where the aliens are landing and you can see laser beams coming past you. And that's the same story, but you play it and you experience it instead of being told that's what's happening. And I think that's what we should always aspire to, is let the player actually be the person that uncovers the story.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Dr. Lagrange, so we've been talking about VON scripts. Can you give us some examples of games that have done this well, either because of the voice acting or because of the script or because of the work of both?
Well, I'm a little bit biased because for my research, I focused on a single game, which is Detroit Become Human by Quantic Dream. And I did focus on this game because I thought it was doing a great job with storytelling and game narrative. And I think one of the reasons why I think it's a really, really good narrative in terms of, game narratives is because they decided to include the flowcharts. So in previous story-driven games, you could make choices. Sometimes you had data, that showed you what other people had chosen. But in this one, you could actually see how each choice you made influenced the narrative path that you got. And just the fact that you were able to see that made you want to replay the game. And I think that's something, that you should aspire to. So yeah, for me, Detroit Become Human, honestly, I think it's one of the best story-driven games.
So, since all of you will be very involved with this competition, I'd love to get your insights about what you think will make a good script for this. So starting with you, Dr. Lagrange, since you'll be the first one receiving these, what are you looking for? I mean, formatting isn't going to kill one, but what's a good formatting for it? What sort of information you want to see? What'll make it stand out?
So I think several things that will make it stand out are like cohesion. So the dialogue should be cohesive, and it should have a clear purpose. So either giving a new quest, or that kind of thing. And in the dialogue, you should feel that the characters have complex personalities, even the NPC. So yeah, those are the main things that we'll be looking for. And then obviously the quality of the writing, because, it goes without saying.
And when it gets to you, Bob, what are you going to look for? What do you think will make one do well in the hands of a voice actor? What makes you look at it and say, I want to hand this off to somebody?
Clear, well, if it's going to be dialogue, clear conflict, or clear, again, between two characters. Since it's one page, you want to make sure that you're getting the full impact of whatever the theme is, right? Whether it's person versus person, person versus nature, person versus self, person versus society. Make sure that the themes are clearly defined, and then make sure that your words, because every word matters, make sure that your words have weight. There are certain phrases or sentences that are said to us that resonate with us our entire lives, right? Whatever mean things have been said to us, right? The things that hurt, our feelings that always stay in our minds, put that on the paper, right? That makes a great villain, because that's always going to matter. Whatever really inspires you, whatever changes your life for the better, put that on the paper, because again, the most significant words and sentences and phrases that have stayed with you throughout your entire lifetime, that matters. And obviously you remember it. So try to put that on the paper, because again, it's only one sheet. So it's got to be very intense, and it's got to be very succinct at the same time.
And Paul, you've done a lot of the game design work that goes around game narration. So these obviously aren't scripts for movies. These are scripts for a game. What is going to make it look to you as if it's coming from a good game, as opposed to just ripped from some movie script?
A few challenges that we can throw to the people participating in this. For example, can you do something that is expository? Can you do something that advances the plot or helps us understand what's happening without having it read like it's exposition?
Yeah.
There's a great challenge to be. Can you get me to understand what might be happening next without it feeling like natural language, which I know that actors, Bob and his group will really appreciate, because it has to be natural speech.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be something that people would do. Can you provide something in your script that will move my emotions for a reason? So I'll give you an example. When you read a novel, sometimes you read the first line of a novel. Catch-22 would be a great example. And you say, hey, wait a minute, I remember that line. I remember in the game that we did called The Darkness, that the first line of the game was the main character saying, I remember the first time I died. Which is an interesting line, because it couldn't, when was the second time, right? And so if you can maybe give us something that moves our emotions, if you exposition that doesn't feel expository in nature, I think those would be the kind of challenges those are the things that I would certainly be looking for. Have you moved my emotions in a really short period of time? Because if you can do it on paper, then you've given the actors and the producers and so on, and the director, the tools to even move us further along. The actors are going to bring something, the director will bring something to that, because the basic building block of anything is the script.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we've had a lot of shout outs in chat for games that they think had good narrative design. Mass Effect 2 certainly came up. Somebody talked about a certain character someone did in Dragon Ball Z. Bob, you know anyone who worked on Dragon Ball Z?
I know quite a few people who've worked on Dragon Ball Z, but yes.
Ben Sandfelder recommended Wilder Myth, which I have not tried out, so I got to check that out. Heavy Rain came up and was much cheered for. What were some of the earlier ones we had come through? Well, of course, Emperor of the Fading Suns, but that goes without saying. So, yeah, a lot of good ones. Now, I'd only planned for our speakers to stay with us for 30 minutes. It is 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. But are there any last words of advice you can give for everyone out there aspiring to be involved in this? And I will give the first, and that is actually do it. Even if you don't care about winning or anything like that, just write it. Everyone watching this video or in the chat will benefit from sitting down and trying to write some game dialogue, whether they submit or not. And once you've written it, go ahead and submit it.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, don't be scared to submit what you write. It's always good to have someone look at it. So yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it speaks to something that I said when I was at the GGDA meeting last week, and they kind of pulled me down on stage. And one of the things that I think is really important for people to understand is that writers don't write, writers finish. In other words, don't be in the process of writing and don't take forever. Instead, put it down and finish it. See what you've got, because once you've got something, you know what you've done wrong at that point. You can begin to self-edit. But unless you finish something, you won't have anything. If you never hand it in, you've never written anything. So I think just take the plunge and do what we call the vomit draft, the horrible one that we hate. And once you've got that, then go from there.
Absolutely. And play. Again, if it's not fun, you're not going to do it. But this should be fun. Right? I mean, this is your story. This is your chance to bring your own creation to life. And who knows? Obviously, you're going to get it in front of our eyes, and we're more than happy to help pass that along to other people who can potentially help you down the road. So play. Be willing to do this.
All right. Really appreciate everybody joining us. If you do have questions, go ahead and email. Dr. Lagrange has very graciously put her email up on this, so reach out to her. All of the folks you're seeing here and others will be involved in the final decision-making. We will have prizes, including GGDA memberships. And Bob, Paul, Dr. Lagrange, definitely appreciate all your times. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we will see you on the script page soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.